have is they should just open the doors of Parliament and everyone just, like, piles in, and anyone who gets a seat, you're allowed to stay, everyone else out.
When the music stops,
exactly.
you sit down.
The Speaker of the House with a mouth organ.
But sortition is a genuine system that was genuinely used by the world's first really great democracy, Greece, and it seemed to work very well. They believed that the idea of a professional politician with vested interest was inimical to the idea of democracy, rule of people, ordinary people. And that
but it was open to everybody, was it? Because there are quite a few people I've just thought of I don't want doing it.
Yeah. Well, mostly the ones who want to do it, which are the ones we have.
Yes. I'm just more intrigued by the fact of it being random punters, but it being done like that Noel's house party thing, where the television shows you. You know, when they flash it on, there'll be somebody sitting on a couch. If they then go, and the Minister for Education is John Smith in Cornwall, and they go, oh, shite. What? No.
But anyway, it's worth thinking about, isn't it? It is a fascinating idea that we would have a duty to be politicians. It would stop us moaning quite so much. Why might it be a good idea to use your leisure time smoking 30 cigarettes a day, drinking explosives and eating dried blood?
Why would it be?
Yes. How might that help one? And indeed, in a strange way, possibly even lengthen one's life. We're in the war here. And there were black ops on both sides. And while we were in Italy, the Italians, who weren't as witless as perhaps we like to think of them as being as an enemy, they sent books of matches as gifts that would drop down on the Allied troops. And inside were little folded bits of paper. And the folded bits of paper said, look, there they were, look, this is how to pretend to be ill, very convincingly. You're going to lose the war. You're having a miserable time fighting us. It's ghastly. You're probably going to be killed. You've got a family back home. You've done your bit. Just pretend to be ill, and you'll get sent home. It's rather clever. And it gives advice for psychological things as well. It says, act as if you hate to be ill. It's quite good psychology. Stick to one set of symptoms, and don't tell the doctor too much. Basically, smoke as much as you can, 20 to 30 cigarettes a day. If you normally smoke as much, double it. And otherwise, there are various other little tricks you can use.
Why smoke? I mean, this is before people were going on about lung cancer.
I know people did smoke a lot. There wasn't about lung cancer. It was about the fact that it made people breathless and it could bring on conditions similar to cardiac arrhythmia and so on.
Okay.
Isn't it easier to just shoot yourself in the foot?
Well, the trouble is that was such a known thing, a blighty one, it was called. I mean, anybody who was shot in the foot in the war, people went, I don't think so.
Ear.
Yeah, that's it.
Shoot yourself in the ear.
It's a whole
That's a difficult one to get exactly right.
Well,
and your foot, the worst is you're going to, like, end with a bullet in the ground. But, like,
I think I could blow my own ear off.
They're telling you how to paralyse your arm by bandaging a pebble on your funny bone. And then there's a needless drawing of a bottom, figure 1.
There's no such thing as a needless drawing of a bottom. That's all I can say.
I don't know this is
It doesn't feature in any of the instructions. Why is there a bottom? Not mentioned.
No.
Just there to catch your eye. Advertisers do these
Meaningless
days.
The British, of course, replied in kind, and
Yeah.
what we tended to do was flood them with books that looked like real German manuals, sporting books, all kinds of things, a Catholic prayer book, and sort of halfway through, suddenly, there would be this list of ways of how to pretend to be ill. And we really did use an enormous number of them. There's a man called Delmer who was in charge of it, Dennis Sefton Delmer, and he hoped to appeal to the sort of Germans' inner Schweinhund, as he called it. And there were manual, step-by-step instructions as to how to fake a wide range of diseases. And they sort of had a double effect. Once, because the Germans knew that they were there, obviously, and that meant they doubted a lot of people who were genuinely ill and sent really ill people back to the front, where they could be, A, demoralised and B, spread infection. And generally, it's just all part of the strange little things people do. But they also gave a good way to fake tuberculosis, and this is really fascinating. How would you fake tuberculosis? This was a time, of course, well, sadly, we're in a time again when tuberculosis is quite a big threat to the world population.
Pretend to be a badger.
Well, there is the issue
Well, they
of
all got them.
whether or not badgers do or don't. Yes, I know. I can tell which side you're on in the great badger debate. But aside from that, tuberculosis...
Glass, the powdered glass.
Well, certainly you have to cough blood is important.
Yeah.
But the mucus you bring up is going to be analysed by a doctor. This only applies to men, and I think you'll see why in a little while. So get yourself a nice genuine cough by doing a lot of smoking. Tell the doctor you had flu some time ago, but the cough just hasn't gone away, and that there's blood in your mucus. You can add the blood to your mucus, obviously, just cut a finger and just add it to your mucus. You know, that's easy, because he'll want to analyse it. But what do you add to the mucus that would allow him to believe that you might have a tuberculosis bacterium inside? Well,
Sperm.
you're very close, horribly close. I'm afraid it's a little worse, in fact. What the gentleman must do is not wash downstairs for a while until cheese develops under the foreskin.
Charming.
And they take a little bit of this cheesy substance and add it to the mucus and the blood. And so when the doctor asks for the sputum, you give them that. And a lazy doctor and a pretty averagely competent doctor would be fooled by the similarity of whatever it is in smegma.
You just would rather not do the analysis.
Yeah. He wouldn't know that it was
He's
smegma.
not just going to send you to a psychiatric ward going, you're eating knob cheese.
No, the point is he doesn't know it. You're using your knob cheese because it looks like TB bacillus.
You don't...
That's the point.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's going to know, he's going to see the crackers falling out your pocket.
The what?
Jacob's crackers. You can't just eat it straight like that. You can't.
Other crackers are available.
Get it up.
The worst conversation I've ever been in, ever.
Ladies and gentlemen, this may be a television first, but I just want you to remember we are talking about a piece of history. We're talking about how people tried to malinger or pretend to be ill. We're talking about
hygiene is
we're
very
talking about personal
important.
hygiene. We're talking about a fact. Some people may giggle when the word smegma or cock cheese is used on something. I think that's their problem, not ours. So, since we've got nothing better to do, what about a board game? Why was Alfred's game so much more successful than Alfred's other game? And that is Alfred, who is quite well... Yes, Scrabble is the answer. Alfred Butts is
And he sold out for bugger all.
Well, it was an interesting story. He had the idea of the board and the 15 by 15 squares and the triple letter and double word and so on. And he made them himself. And in the early 50s, it was around in the shops of New York and it was a great success. But it just so happened the chap who ran Macy's, the famous department store, he played it one Christmas and he went nuts for it. Absolute nuts for it. And the following year, it sold 4 million. It was the fastest and biggest growing game in the history of that genre of games. It just completely went wild. And all he got, I say all, was about $1,600,000, Butts, the inventor. But he never complained about it. He said it's perfectly fine. It allowed me to have a wonderful life, and he was proud of it. But he then produced another game, which he called Alfred's Other Game. And that, unfortunately, wasn't a hit, despite the lady in the black busty dress. The principle of the scoring is pretty obvious. He used the frequency of letters in English. The highest possible score you could have from one word has been worked out. I wonder if you know what that word might be. It seems unlikely.
Well, it depends if you're Edinburgh. The highest I ever got was underpass on 2 triple word scores.
That's very good. I did Bezique once and got sort of 200.
Yes, you
200.
would do.
No, that was very lucky.
Well, you would do underpass,
well, I
though,
thought
wouldn't
it
you?
Underpass was good.
All three words.
Well, you've got to use all 7 because you get the plus 50.
Yes, you've got to get the 50. But
There are
the
many.
most irritating thing about playing Scrabble with people is when they use words that aren't in common usage, that are in... They just, back in the early of this year, they announced that GRRL is now a word, but it isn't.
No, it isn't. And I basically have my house rule, which is you can't use a word you don't know the meaning of. I just don't think it's fair.
No, I go even further.
Some people just learn lists of words.
Okay.
Well, why do it? Why put in a word that you
Do
just...
you let people have the list of 2-letter words on the show?
No. Joe is a classic case in point. I know it
playing
means
with you.
love, but I never use the word Joe
No.
in conversation, therefore you can't have it. Or people who spell axe in the American way.
Without the E.
It's just no.
Do you know the most commonly played word in Scrabble?
Penis.
No.
It is in my house.
It's rather thrilling.
Gay.
No, not gay.
It's a good word.
It's a fine word.
That's 7.
Even more
7 points.
QI, thank you very much. Key is the most commonly played
Really?
word in Scrabble. Because it's a Q that doesn't need a U, and you can just put it next to an I, and if it's on a triple letter, you're immediately scoring
Yes, but
well.
it's not.
It's the Chinese for the life force, as you know. Well, if you could possibly play the word, and obviously it would involve intersecting with many other words, because it's longer than 7 letters, if you could get oxyphenylbutazone, there is a potential score of 1,178. Just for playing that.
And I bet you've done it.
I've never played that.
Is this called my bluff? Or
No.
Can I just point out, right? I'm
highest-
dyslexic. I've never played Scrabble. To me, playing Scrabble is essentially like decorating a bathroom.
Oh, that is
Finished.
There are games of Scrabble that involve words like Bezique, and there are games of Scrabble that involve words like tits. And it is shattering sometimes. You look back at a Scrabble board and go, God, we really aren't the sophisticated people we thought we were.
The highest recorded single word is 392 for Kaziks, played by Dr.
Quizzically
Carl.
would get you 400, I reckon.
That's obviously counting any one of the Zs.
Well, obviously, yes.
So that's pretty good.
But if you got it on two treble words...
Yes, that would be the key, isn't it? It would be fantastic. All right, well, we're going to move on to something where spelling isn't quite so
Is it
important.
Boggle next? I like that too.
No, this is Monopoly. Strategically speaking, which are the properties that are best to buy straight away, if you can?
Are they the ones that if somebody's in jail, people constantly end up starting
That's the
again
point.
from
If
there?
you get a 6 or an 8, which are the most likely throws you'll get from a double dice game, you're going to land on one of those as you move out of jail, which is rather appropriate because Vine Street, Marlborough Street and Bow Street are all streets which have in common...
Courts.
They used to have, yes, magistrates' courts in them. I think they're all actually now in disuse, but...
And why is there a dog?
Well, that's, you know...
And a hat.
Which one would you choose? You'd choose the car, I suppose.
Well, it's just a car or the ship. Why would you... Who said
a dog? You take a dog for a walk round
Yeah,
London.
but I got a second. You'd go for the dog over the iron. I mean, given a choice, you go, right, dog or the iron. In most scenarios, dog is a better option.
True.
Greyhound racing.
Yes.
They're off. Oh, the iron's lost again. Quick! The criminal's getting away. Release the iron.
Johnny, I've got to get to that formalication in the next while. What am I going to do?
Do we know how they arrived at the idea of an eye and a dog ship?
Apparently, one of the theories is that these were all things that were on his wife's charm bracelet. His wife had a charm bracelet, the inventor of the game.
She had a ship on her charm.
Happy Christmas, darling. Here's an iron.
She might
To remind you of the indentured servitude of our married life. Here's an iron. Now go walk the dog, my top hat.
My next question on idleness is, what did the dormouse do on his gap year? There's a dormouse, aren't they charming?
Yeah, sweet.
I suppose this being QI, you know that probably the most obvious thing about a dormouse is...
They sleep in teapots.
Well, there is... According to Lewis Carroll, they sleep in teapots.
They're very quiet.
They're not mice.
Obviously,
And
yes.
they're not doors either.
Nor are they doors. They're neither doors nor mice. It's possible that the dorm is the key. It's the dormancy of them.
Sleep.
In fact, they spend so much of their time asleep. They're the only animal that will hibernate for 18 months sometimes. No, look at him asleep there.
He's dead.
Oh,
That creature has been killed by those falling nuts next to him. He tried to pick up bumps.
You got TB from a badger.
They live a surprisingly long life for small
Well, if
animals.
they sleep for 18 months.
What they do is they see how the harvest is going to be on the beech trees, like from very early in the season. If they think there are not going to be many nuts this year, they just go, well, I'll sleep till the next fruiting season and see if that's a better one. And they eat as much as they possibly can. They put on huge amounts of body fat, and they can sleep for that length of time. It's quite astonishing.
A strange animal thing I have, our house, you can see the river in the bottom of the garden, and we were showing this to some people who brought their kids for like a barbecue, and a squirrel came down off one of the trees and scampered out to the edge of the water. This is the Thames now. And then started swimming in the water towards the far shore. And you could see the ripper where he was going. The tail, when wet, thump, it disappeared. And we're all going, oh my God, this is fantastic. Look at the squirrel swim. And then all the parents go, Jesus, I hope he can swim all the way, because otherwise we're encouraging our children to look at a squirrel drown.
Someone go out. Get out there just in case he doesn't make it. Yes. I'll go. And then the squirrels think, Jesus, they're coming from...
But tell me, it did make it.
Disappeared from view, but then emerged at the point where the parents go, oh God, we have to explain death to these children from this thing. Emerges out of the water, shakes himself off, tail, thump, runs into the trees on the other side.
Very happy.
And raised 400 quid for sport relief. Very good.
You have to watch the last item on every local news coverage, because 2 minutes later he was on water skis.
Now, could you demonstrate the best way to sit the dolls you have been given, which you should find somewhere, in a chair? We're really after what's best for the back. So you've got a chair and you've got a bendy...
Some say that his politics are terrifying.
Please don't call the
I'm
strings.
afraid these are stigs that you can buy in shops.
And you pull the string and Clarkson speaks. I can't think of anything that would give nightmares to children more than... You're the best will in the world. You're not Woody from Toy Story. You know, you're not